So I am working on my dissertation, and that is it's titled right now "Cinema Ecology and the Body Resisted." So the idea being that in many mainstream Hollywood films, the body, while there are a lot of films about action and sort of, sex and action and, where you would think the body is involved, the way that montage edit or the way that editing has evolved from the set through technology to the screen, how do we engage the body?
I think you could say the same thing about radio interviews and the voice, because what is almost toxic on radio is dead air, and if somebody pauses in an interview, those pauses can be very significant, but if they last more than a second or two, they get cut out or severely diminished. Or if somebody says, too much during an interview, or which are indications that they're thinking about what the question is and how best to answer it, those also tend to get cut out. So there is an equivalent restriction in film editing. Having said that, when I look at dailies and I find a particularly good pause or breath or look, I will make note of that just as much as I will make note of a good line reading or a good piece of action.
Well, and it's notable too that you're mentioning DNA. I mean, I think your engagement with film as something that is embodied is so deep and wide, and it feels like it comes up in many different, both metaphors and in the practicalities. When you stand to edit, and you've talked about this on camera before, but I hope you don't mind me asking for this piece. When you stand to edit, what does that do for the audience? What does that do for what happened on set? What does it do for you as an editor? I kind of want to get a sense for this ecology of filmmaking.
Yeah. Two things. One of them has nothing to do with any of those questions. It's just a healthier way to work. There are many articles online where you can read your chair is your enemy. People who sit for long periods of time every day have shorter lifespans and less healthy lifespans. So it was something that I started doing, started working standing up back in the mid-'60s, because you had to do it in those days. The machine required you to do it. And then the machines changed in the 70s, and you could, and you, in fact, were encouraged to sit down. And that's where I felt the emergence of the problem. Began to have stiffness in the shoulders and back problems.
Do you think that this has an effect on what we're able to bear with each other? I look at the film Truly, Madly, Deeply, where, it's Juliet Stevenson and she's weeping over, her dead husband, and her nose is like running, it's just like this super close-up of her, and we just never see that. And as far as the way that the body is represented, I think that that's notable in the sense that it's like, when have you seen an actress, especially, like we never see anybody's nose running, but it's this expression of grief and we're so uncomfortable. But if we don't see that, does it spill over in another?
Things are, nobody cuts exclusively in that Hollywood way, nor do we cut exclusively in the Eisenstein way, but there there's a kind of a mixture of both of them. My own observation of my own technique is that I use the Hollywood technique very sparingly, and I don't ever cut on action except when the circumstances encourage me to do so. But I would say that was maybe 5% or 3% of the time. Usually I hold a shot until the moment to initiate an action is present to the bursting point, and then I make the transition, the cut to the next shot, at which point the movement is initiated. So you could think of it as a series of unfoldings, that each shot is a flowering or an uncurling of the potential that was almost but not yet realized in the previous.